Welcome to the BZen Wellness Podcast, where we journey through personal stories of transformation and resilience.
This is a space for us to share insights from our experiences and the wisdom of the experts and mentors who have guided us.
I'm your host, Jonah Boersma, certified life and relationship coach.
And I'm your host, Brittany Boersma, registered yoga teacher, breathwork facilitator, and ceremonialist.
If you're enthusiastic about personal development, you're in the right place.
Let's dig in.
Welcome, dear hearts. I would really love to just take a deep, deep breath with y'all. So let's just together have one big inhale, deep in through the nostrils. And let it all out. I'm pretty excited to be here with you today by myself. I don't get to ride Brittany's coattails on this episode, and there's nobody else to talk to. You just get me. I feel a little excited, maybe a little bit nervous, but I took a lot of time to really consider what it was that I wanted to talk to you about today. And it really just made sense for me to speak to something that I love, something that I know well, and something that I've been studying for many years now. And that is exploring the world of life coaching. I really want to dive into the transformative power of life coaching and how it differs from other modalities like therapy. And also, why might coaching be a right choice or a good fit for you? And so let's just jump into first and foremost, what is coaching, right? What is life coaching? And the definition that I want to give you for this that resonates with me is that coaching is a collaborative relationship and effort where a client is supported by a coach to make positive changes in their life, to achieve goals, whether they be professional or personal goals, and ultimately to just improve their overall well-being. In the realm of coaching, it is so important for a coach and a client to get really, really clear on what the client's values are, so that when we are creating goals, we're able to make sure that they're in alignment with the things that are important to us in our lives, right? And from that space of clarity in what the values are, and then really getting clear in achievable goals, then there's this process of taking actionable steps. I just love that process. I've always been really intrigued and fired up by the process of achievement. And I want to get into a bit of my personal background with my own personal development, some of my certifications, some of my training, maybe tell a story of how I was introduced to coaching. We'll see if I get into that. But before I do, I really want to just share with you this list that I compiled of how coaching plays this really transformative role in one's personal development. So let's just dig into this. First off, life coaching encourages individuals to explore their beliefs, their core beliefs, along with their values and their aspirations. And through different reflective exercises and asking really, really good questions, a coach can help to gain clarity on what clients truly want in their life. And this really fosters a deeper understanding of the client, right? It helps one to better understand themselves. Of course, I mentioned this goal setting and achievement. Coaches really do work with their clients to set meaningful and achievable goals that are aligned with their values and their life vision. A coach can help break down these big aspirations that a client might have into smaller and more manageable steps, which really just makes things feel a lot less overwhelming and far more attainable. One of my favorite aspects of how coaching has really improved my personal development is the idea that we can break our limiting beliefs. Many, many people carry limiting beliefs around that they hold on to from past experiences, from childhood, learned behaviors, right? Learned beliefs that really do kind of hold us back from reaching our potential. Life coaches can be really great at helping clients identify what these beliefs might be and to challenge them and to really help our clients foster growth mindset so that we can build confidence and move beyond the limiting beliefs that we have imposed on ourselves. This also leads to obviously like more self-confidence. Who doesn't want more of that, right? I do. I love being confident and I love feeling confident in the things that I'm doing and I love feeling self-confident in my life. So why not? There's no downside. The part that has been the most helpful for me and really been changing for me, like it's really helped me evolve and level my life up, is the accountability that coaching offers. Not to mention motivation, right? Life coaching provides a structured process for maintaining accountability. That has been so, so powerful for me. Coaches check in on their clients regularly, and it's a motivating team aspect to help a client stay on track and to make consistent progress, which is really key to lasting changes for a client's life. Coaching can also help your personal development by helping you to develop resilience and adaptability. It supports resilience by helping individuals handle setbacks, right? How do we deal with failures? Also, what can we do to adapt to the challenges that life throws at us? You know, oftentimes when I have goals, I'm taking steps, I'm making action to progress towards the achievement of that goal. And majority of the time, my action steps aren't working. I'm faced with challenges. I'm faced with roadblocks. So how do I approach those roadblocks? Am I able to adapt? Do I have the resilience to face the failure and move beyond it? I think resilience is really a core aspect of personal development because it allows someone to navigate their life with all of the ups and downs that the world throws at us. And if we are able to navigate all of those ups and downs, we just get to like cruise with this growth mindset and with this work ethic, and our resilience allows us to continue to move forward. Improved decision-making is something that is a really great personal development aspect of coaching. By clarifying values and enhancing self-awareness, life coaching can enable the clients to make decisions that are really in alignment with their goals and just their long-term vision. This skill definitely leads to better choices in careers, in health, in relationships, and really just overall lifestyle. Lastly, I want to say that I've experienced this from my work as a client, and I've gotten to witness this through my work as a coach as well. And that's strengthening emotional intelligence. Life coaches help clients develop self-awareness, empathy, and really just emotional regulation skills. These components of emotional intelligence really do contribute to improved relationships and better handling of challenging emotions that are really essential to somebody's personal growth. It really has been a big aspect of my personal development as just an individual, as a man. And I think it's going to continue to be this very big piece of my own personal development. I think, for a long time, I was not very in touch with my emotions and my emotional body. And yet I have learned different skills and different tools to improve upon that aspect of who I am. And it's made a world of a difference for me. I want to share with you some of my background in personal development, and I'll get into the story that I had in mind. My family used to go on road trips to the Oregon coast, and that was kind of like our family vacation spot. And we would, pile into the car and have all the weekend stuff, all the essentials, and make our way over to Brookings Harbor. And on the trip, I would always just want to listen to music, right? I just wanted to bump music and dance and sing. And I was probably a bit of a wild child. But my dad would put on these cassette tapes that were all about personal empowerment. It was by Tony Robbins. And I don't know if y'all have heard of Tony Robbins, but he is kind of like a pioneer in the self-help industry. He is probably the world's greatest results-focused coach. So my dad would listen to these cassette tapes, and my siblings and I would I just remember being so irritated. Like, why do we have to listen to this on this road trip? I don't know that it really resonated for me at the time, but Tony Robbins was such an integral part of my dad's growth and him developing business with his brother and finding a lot of success. And a lot of the tools and skills that they learned, it was always implemented into his life. They were always doing goal setting. They were always applying this ultimate success formula. And I learned about this from a young age and was able to actually start applying it to my life in my teenage years, getting into leadership in my high school and starting to think about my future and what it was that I was trying to create for myself in my life. It was really profound for me to have such an early exposure to self-help, personal development, whatever you want to call it, because it really did instill this growth mindset in me. And I had a lot of tools that were helpful for me to move along in my path, right? And to become the next version of myself and whatever it was that I was trying to achieve. Over the course of my adult life, I've enjoyed a lot of different self-help or personal development books and seminars and workshops. And I've learned from a lot of different teachers. And it wasn't until my 30s that I really got more intrigued and interested in the world of life coaching. I listened to a podcast called The Life Coach School with Brooke Castillo. And I just thought, man, this woman is such a badass. She is showing all of these listeners so many different tools and talking about different topics that were really helping people to become better versions of themselves. And what I really enjoyed about her work and her teachings and her podcast was it really showed me how important it is to manage our minds. This idea and the concept that our thoughts do create our reality. And Brooke does an amazing job teaching a specific model that she works with through her coaching practice that really highlights how our thoughts and our emotions are what fuel the actions we take in the world. And of course, our actions are what deliver us the results that we get for ourselves in our lives. Diving into her teachings was really, really powerful for me to just drive in that kind of a knowing that I had had, that I felt for a long time, that our minds are really, really powerful. And I learned that when I don't manage my mind, I create a lot of chaos for myself. Now, that's not to say that chaos is bad, right? Chaos comes with a lot of creation. And so I'm not saying that having some chaos in your life should be avoided, because it's kind of inevitable. But her teachings really, really inspired me. And there was a period in time where I was going through this transition, and I had hired myself a coach prior to leaving my past business. And it was so great working with my coach, Karen Gillen. Shout out to you, Karen. You are amazing. She really worked with me a lot in my business and developing different structures for my business and different protocols for my business. She also worked with me on losing weight, which I dropped like 25 pounds working with Karen, which was awesome. It wasn't necessarily something that I thought was going to be a result of hiring her as my coach, but it came with it, and I wasn't mad about it. But she was there with me through the transition of leaving my business and moving into this next chapter and this next phase of my life. I was so appreciative of having her support through that process, because she asked me such quality questions, and I was in a space of a bit of confusion and not really knowing exactly what I wanted. And so, long story short, I took some time to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And I thought about so much history I had had in my work in the past. And I loved this aspect of working with people to achieve their potential. And it just fueled me up. And as I was considering this, I was listening to the Brooke Castillo, to the Life Coach School podcast. And Brooke had started to advertise her certification for life coaching. And I thought, oh man, this is it. I've been listening to this podcast for years. I had joined one of her programs at the time called Self-Coaching Scholars, where I was doing a lot of self-coaching on myself and diving into a lot of the tools and skills that she was teaching. And when she had announced this and launched it, I was like, I'm in. I knew that Brooke had been teaching people how to coach already for years, and I had trust in her program. And so I joined, and it was a 6-month-long program. There was so much content to view online. There were weekly calls with a master coach and an instructor with a small cohort of people that were in the program with me, and lots of coaching happening. And it was so impactful for me because I really learned in that program how to approach somebody in the issues that they're bringing to the table from a stance of total neutrality and just care and love for that person as a human. It really taught me how to hold a container and hold space for somebody and do it without any judgment. And using these different tools that I was taught to show these people that I got the privilege of working with, of what it was that they were creating for themselves in their lives, and really get clear on what was it that they were wanting to create for themselves. It was so powerful. It was so impactful. It was so beautiful. I really loved that training. And it really pushed me to just jump into the life coaching world. I want to fast forward because there was a period of time where I decided to push pause on my coaching practice. Brittany and I were going through a lot. There was this, health scare with Brittany's breast cancer diagnosis. And I really felt as though I didn't have the capacity to hold space for anyone any longer. I really wanted to focus on my wife and myself as we went through this really intense journey in the washing machine of the healthcare system. And so it didn't take long for me to recognize that I had this desire, this need to contribute to the world. And coaching has always felt like a really beautiful way for me to make contribution. And so I decided I want a little bit more education. And on a whim, I decided to join the relationship school with Jason Gaddis to learn his certification and go through the programming to become a relationship coach. I bit off a little more than I could chew. And let's just say I made this decision to join the program fresh off of Burning Man. I've always heard you should never make any major life decisions after you leave the playa because, you're tired. You just went through this really amazing experience with thousands and thousands of other individuals. And so just give yourself some space to decompress and just collect yourself before you dive back into making big choices for your life. I did not take that advice. And I had a call with a woman who was vetting applicants for the relationship school and learned that I would need to take a prerequisite course in tandem with my certification program. Let me tell you, this was so confronting. I had to read multiple books. I had to watch all of these different module videos online and do these homework assignments that were so intense and so confronting and made me really analyze my stories about relationships, my stories about myself, the attachment styles, my relationship with my family, right? All of these different things that are really important aspects of someone's life, but something that I haven't really put a whole lot of thought, at least deep thought into in my past. And so, my goodness, it was a lot of work, but it was so worth it. In that program, there was a cohort, I want to say maybe 40 people finished the program, but my small group had about 6 other individuals that were going through the training with me. And every week we would get together on Zoom and we would have these practice calls where we would do coaching with each other. We would get together in small circles and do coaching circles, offer feedback. We also were assigned clients through the relationship school that we were able to work through relationship problems and set clear relationship goals with. And it reinvigorated me in such a beautiful way because I was challenged and I was forced to really take a hard look at what my skills were, what my judgments were in the past, and how I wanted to proceed and move forward as a coach in this really incredible and booming industry. I learned through that process that there are so many different programs. There's so many different ways to go about coaching. And I'm so appreciative and I'm so glad that I did the different certifications that I had, because I really feel like I gained some really important skills that I just added to my tool belt. I've also done other certifications that are a little bit outside of life coaching. For example, I did the shamanic healing modalities and breathwork facilitation training. And that really allowed me to bring a lot of these skills that I learned through my coaching certifications into one-on-one healing sessions with individuals and into the breathwork ceremony space. And so it's really beautiful for me in my own personal development to meld and bring together all of these different modalities and trainings that I've done, because they all add to one result of me being able to be of service and to be a helper in the world. And that's something that's really, really important to me. I want to talk about the benefits of life coaching and of therapy. And I'm really going to speak to how I have benefited from both of these modalities. Number one was just the accomplishment of different goals that I had. Through coaching, I was able to build my business. I was able to create structure, like I mentioned earlier, but I was also able to change different habits that I had had, and habits that I didn't even necessarily realize that I had had. I had no awareness until I went through the coaching process. And that was really, really special and impactful for me, because I built this incredible self-awareness through the coaching process, through being asked really quality questions and just having things reflected back to me from somebody that was caring for me along my journey of my own development. I also, like I mentioned, got to experience so much support through a career transition, a really big career transition that, in all honesty, was kind of an identity melter for me. I've described it that way in the past anyways. I had my identity so wrapped up in the work I was doing in the past that I didn't really know who I was once I stopped doing that anymore. And having the support of a coach through that transition was so beautiful and so helpful for me, because it really got my wheels turning on how do I want to identify? Who do I want to be in the world? And if this is who I want to be, is it in alignment with who I am today? And if it's not, how can I move forward? What steps can I take? What actions can I take to become this version of myself that I see myself being? And that was just like intense. I also really got to experience a lot more balance in my life through the coaching process. And when I say that I got to experience more balance through the coaching process, I'm kind of referring to like balance in my life, in my personal life, in my work life, in my relationships, through creating a process for myself. I had to create structure for myself in order to have some sort of balance. And I mean, I'm being completely honest, my life is constantly out of balance. There's constant shifting that needs to take place in order for me to be able to really flourish. And the only way I've been able to achieve what I think is balance for myself has been through this process of working with a coach and creating process and structure for myself. And lastly, the other benefit that I really want to touch on that was so important for me was just such strengthening in my relationships, particularly in my marriage. Now, I've also worked with different therapists, and I want to share some of the benefits that I've received from working with in therapy. Number one, I really got to process some trauma, and I wouldn't have been able to do it with a coach because the coaches that I worked with didn't have trauma training. They didn't have expertise in working with trauma. And one of my therapists really supported me through processing a very traumatic experience, and forever grateful for that. I also really learned a better understanding of my choices and my patterns through gaining insight to my past and getting to understand it and really recognize how I created different coping mechanisms, coping skills, and just different tactics in my life based off of things that I experienced in my childhood or my young adult life, and even in my teenage years that I just carried with me into my adult life. And that was so helpful for me to recognize and just build awareness around, because now I have a little bit more capability to make more conscious decisions. The last benefit that I want to share is I really got to establish incredible boundaries and also just very clear agreements with my spouse, and working with our couples, our marriage counselor, our couples therapist, Sage, just another powerhouse woman. She really helped us to get clear on what our agreements and our boundaries are and have understanding of one another in really beautiful ways. There are a lot of differences between therapy and coaching, and I want to just briefly discuss some key differences. I pulled up this document that was written by a doctor of psychology along with some professional coaches through the Coaches Training Institute. And I highlighted just a few things that I think are really major differences, and I think it's important to highlight. Number one, in coaching, it's viewed that both parties, the coach and the client, are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And through this process, a coach does not diagnose or treat different disorders, right? Where in therapy, they're more apt to view clients from a medical model or a medical lens where they're able to diagnose and treat different things. Also, in coaching, we work with clients who are able to form an alliance and really just have common goals that the client is really trying to pursue in their life. In therapy, it's as if therapists are really just trained to work with clients that are more entrenched in their problems. In therapy, there's a focus on healing and understanding, where in coaching, it feels like there's a bit more of a focus on evolving and manifesting potential. And this is one that really feels true to me, is that in coaching, we're really mainly working with external issues, right? The emphasis on goals. In therapy, there's a lot more emphasis on working with internal issues. There really is a lot of crossover, and some therapists are using a lot of coaching skills in their sessions. Some coaches have psychology and therapy backgrounds, and they're bringing in a lot of therapeutic tools into their practice. And one way that I tend to think about a difference between coaching and therapy is that in my experience in working with therapy, there was a lot more emphasis on the present and the past, where in coaching, in my experience, there's been a lot more emphasis on the present and moving forward into the future. And I think that is something that has been really helpful for me in distinguishing what issues do I really want to work with a coach on versus what issues do I think might be better suited for therapy. Now, there are some things that I don't believe coaches should be working with individuals on. If you are somebody who deals with mental illness, depression, bipolar disorder, some diagnosed mental illness, you are probably better suited to work with a therapist. They have more in-depth training in working with individuals that deal with these things. There is more education around that, and it's important for a coach to stay within their bounds and stay within their competency. I know for me personally, I'm not skilled enough to be able to work with somebody that is dealing with some of those issues. The same goes for somebody that might be dealing with abuse, whether that's emotional or physical abuse from another individual. I also think if somebody is working with or dealing with some addictions, substance addiction, those are different scenarios where you're probably better off to be working with a therapist rather than a coach. Another interesting thing that I want to point out that's a huge difference between therapy and coaching is the coaching industry is unregulated. Now, that means that you don't need to go to any kind of training. You don't need any kind of education in order to call yourself a coach. That means that it might be a bit risky for you as a client to be seeking out a coach. So I recommend that you do some research, do your due diligence, look into what it is, get clear on what it is that you might want coaching on, what you might want some help on, and seek out a coach that specializes in that field, specializes in that niche, and do some research on them. Ask them really good questions if you decide to set up a discovery call and, get a good idea of what their training is, what their life experience is, and what credentials they might have. Now, that's not to say that you have to have credentials to help somebody. You definitely don't. You can be very helpful to another person and not have a certificate on the wall. And that also means that there's a lot more diversity that can come forth in this coaching industry. And so I really do recommend do your research, look into who might be a really good fit for you if you are interested in seeking out a coach. And the same thing goes for when if you decide that you might want to go see a therapist. Ask the therapist questions. If you decide to have a session with one, feel them out, advocate for yourself, and really get a good idea, a good feel of whether or not you feel a connection or some resonance with the person that you decide to work with. I think it's really, really important for you to feel good about working with either a therapist or a coach, regardless of whichever route you might choose for your life. If you decide to go that route, you want it to feel good, right? And just listen to your intuition. Advocate for yourself and listen to your intuition. There are a lot of different reasons why you might want to hire a coach. And I spent a bit of time really thinking about what are some good reasons to hire a coach. I'll start with some of the ones that I think are the most important. And the first one is clarity and goal setting. Many people really struggle with identifying what they truly want in their life. And I've experienced this in my work with clients time and again. One of the exercises that I've done with people is to let's just write out a list. What are the things that you desire for your life? What are the outcomes that you want? And they can be as small or as big as your heart dreams of, right? And so a coach can really help to bring clarity to your personal or your professional goals and break the larger aspirations down into achievable steps, right? And that's something that I think is really, really potent because when we start making progress, we start gaining momentum. The one that I mentioned is really important for me is the accountability, right? Accountability is so important. So if you're seeking accountability for a project, an outcome, a process that you're in your life, and you need some help to maintain this level of support and motivation, a coach can be a really consistent support for you and encourage the progress and really help to hold you accountable. If you've got obstacles to overcome and you feel stuck and you don't know how to move around it, right? Coaching is a really great opportunity for you to get over your limiting beliefs, your self-doubt, or really just help move beyond any unresolved challenges. A coach can help to identify and break down the barriers for you and really just empower you to move forward with confidence. Speaking of confidence, if you are really seeking to improve your self-confidence or your self-worth, coaching is a great way to do so. Life coaching can help build a more positive self-image, instill self-worth, and encourage confidence in the decisions and in your capability. I also believe that coaching is great for anyone who is really wanting to enhance their communication or improve their relationships. Many people hire coaches to work on their relationships through improving their communication or understanding their relationship dynamics and fostering healthier connections with their friends or their family members or their beloved or their work partners. And so if you are really seeking to improve upon these relationships, coaching is a great way to go about that. If you are really seeking to build healthier habits, whether it's eating healthier, exercising, establishing new routines. Coaching can help clients create and stick to positive habits that align with their goals and overall well-being. And lastly, if you're seeking personal development, if you're seeking your own personal growth, a coach can support you. If you want to invest in yourselves and grow as an individual, often by developing skills in, like we mentioned before, resilience and adaptability and emotional intelligence. So this growth can really lead to a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment. So if any of those things are something that you are really seeking or interested in, life coaching could be this really incredible avenue for you. I want to share just a couple of client success stories because to me, they just fuel me up to see people seek out this potential and watch it come to fruition. I had a client I worked with who was really in this interesting spot where their confidence was down. They were in this transition from work, and what they wanted to work on together was losing weight. And they set this goal of losing 60 pounds. And over the course of many months, we worked together on creating a protocol for their nutrition and for their fitness and really dial in the action steps they wanted to take to achieve this goal. And over the course of many, many months, they did drop that weight. They lost 60 pounds and beyond that. And through this process, really gained a lot of insight in the way they were navigating their life and built so much confidence. And it was so beautiful to see. Another client of mine was working at a job that didn't really feel like it was in great alignment. And they had this vision for themselves of a business they wanted to create. And so working together, we got to set forth all of these different plans, creating a business plan, what it would take for them to actually start this business, where they were going to set up shop, how it was going to look. And this person really met all of the challenges that came forth for them in this process and navigated it so beautifully, launched their business, which of course boosted their self-confidence, gave them a ton of freedom and also financial stability, which was so beautiful to see. And my last example I'd like to give makes me laugh because I personally have endured a lot of stress that I've created for myself around the holiday season. And this individual had a lot of struggles with their family from teenage years into adulthood. And we really worked together to establish what were the family dynamics, what were some of the origins of the issues that they had, and what was their part in the dynamic? You know, what were they bringing to the table? And the goal for this client was to spend the Christmas holiday with their family and not have one single argument. And I am happy to report back that they had an incredible Christmas with their family, and it was actually very connective and loving, and they felt so excited that they kind of overcame this stress of being together with their family through this, really stressful time for a lot of people, the holiday season. And it just brings me so much joy to witness somebody doing the work on themselves so that they can experience life and relationships with others in a beautiful and profound way. So I wanted to share those stories with you because it is possible for you to set really amazing goals for yourself, really impactful goals for yourself, and strive towards them and take a lot of action to achieve those goals. And when they do, it's really beautiful. It's really meaningful and it's really impactful. And so you're capable of that too. And as we wind down for today's episode, I just want to have some emphasis on the idea of coaching as an ongoing process. It should adapt with the person based on their personal and professional goals, depending on what it is that you're working on. As you go through the coaching process, you go through a lot of change. You're met with a lot of challenge. You're stretched in really beautiful, different ways, and you become the next version of yourself through the process. And as you evolve, coaching evolves with you. And a good coach will make that evolution smooth and easy as they hold your hand through the process. And I just think it's really important to emphasize that coaching is not a one size fits all. It's not the same for every client. Session by session can be completely different. And so I wanted to make sure that you had an understanding that it's an evolving process. My work as a coach is really, really important to me. My goal is to work with people to strengthen and fortify their most important relationships. And I really do believe that our relationships, they are a mirror for us. They reflect deep truths about ourselves and about the way we perceive the world. And I believe that through relationship, we can really work together to see things in different ways. And through the coaching process, we can cultivate more meaningful relationships. And my goal is to help you do that, to help you build confidence along the way and to really just embrace your authenticity. I strive to help clients feel empowered to step into their potential. And that is what fuels me up in my practice and the work that I get to do in this world. I hold it with such a high honor, and I just know how important and how much responsibility I take in this role, in this seat I get to take as the life coach, as the relationship coach. And I am just so thankful that I have the opportunity to do this really important, transformative, and impactful work. And so as we leave today, I would just like to encourage you to consider your history in your own personal development. Think about the person you are today and how you came to be to this place in your life, the challenges, the successes, the things that you had to overcome to be sitting in this seat, standing in this space. What did it take for you to get here? Not only that, but where is it that you want to go? Where do you want to be in your life in the next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Who is it that you want to be and how do you want to show up in the world? More than likely, you could benefit from working with someone to walk along this path of life with you, hold your hand through the process, ask you really incredible questions, powerful questions, and collaborate with you on this path of life, on this journey of life. And so if you are interested, look into life coaching. You can always check out our website, bzenwellness.com, and learn more about our coaching offerings. But there are so many other coaches out there in the world that could really be a huge benefit and a huge support system for you. Thank you so much for being here with me on this solo cast. I hope that you got some value out of it. I know it was really impactful for me to come up with some of these notes to share with you today. It really did fire me up, and I'm so happy that I got to share a little bit about the world of life coaching with you. I hope that you are feeling well and that you go out there and just have an amazing day.
Thank you for joining us today on the BZen Wellness Podcast. We hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to continue on your personal quest.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. And if you want to learn more or dive deeper into these topics, visit our website and follow us on social media.
Until then, friends, breathe deep, take some time for yourself, and remember, you are already whole. Goodbye, dear hearts.